All right, we're live. Sorry for being a little late here. You know, life happens, and we jumped in only 6 minutes late. Could be a lot worse. Could be actually not doing it, which is kind of cool that we were actually doing it. So I'm here with Mr. George Churchwell, Mount Tam Solutions. We're talking about AI agents, copyright issues, other stuff like that, including GPTs. So I'm going to jump right into it. Mr. Churchwell, talk to me about AI agents. We're going to have some conversation at the conference coming up for sure on that too.
Yeah, that and GPTs. Hello, everyone. AI agents, what's happening now, for any of you that worked with AI, you would find that you can't put large blocks in and get success. So what would happen, to give an example of maybe creating a training course, what we would do is go out on ChatGPT and search and find information about what it was we were trying to write on, a la researcher, take that data in, and then run another ChatGPT session, a different session that we would then apply the courseware template and learning objectives, and then say the research content, you pour that in, and then you connect it to the templates and learning objectives, and you get a course. But that's with a human doing it.
Yeah.
And you can then tie the two AIs together using something called the Lang chain.
We'll talk through that a little bit. So you're tying in separate GPTs together.
So you can have, yes. So what you can do, this is to remove the human.
Yeah, we don't like humans.
Yeah. So this
they do things wrong and they corrupt data.
So what happens is, using a Lang chain and some modifications, there's companies creating this now. What you would do is you would tell your writer that you want to write a book about something.
Okay.
And that's it. And the writer will then, using a Lang chain, reach out to another AI that you would have built that's a researcher. And the researcher could go out and do the research and send it back to the actual writer. And I've heard you can have different agents. You can have an agent called an optimizer that will then read the story that was written and make it better. You could have a proofreader agent. Ultimately, in the end, the concept is to have multiple AIs that will be working for you. You'll have a little crew of AIs.
Like minions.
Minions. And in fact, if you want to know,
a bunch of minions.
There's a company there's a lot of companies that don't necessarily promote anyone in particular, but there's a company called Crew AI that is building this product and moving that to market.
But let's go through this a little bit more so people can understand it. The agent is actually a GPT you created, most likely using ChatGPT-4.
Or something, yeah. Or Llama, or anything, yeah.
Okay, well, let's kind of make that differentiation for folks, because if you're going to use Llama, then you have to create the environment.
Well, what the agent really is an AI that's focused to accomplish a task.
Yep.
A specific role is assigned to the agent. And as we bring this up, and you're talking about this is really new.
So it's extremely new.
It went from prompt engineering.
Yep.
To GPTs for OpenAI,
yep.
And some of the other people trying to make it. But that allows you to give something to somebody, and they don't have to know prompt engineering. They get to enjoy the AI because you created the world.
They're just working with it. They're
working with the AI, and you created that world.
Well, we do, which is like some people do with the OpenAI's environment. But yeah, it's almost like a database in and of itself for you. It's been built. The work that does this specific task.
And what happens is, if you try to create, think you're trying to create something with ChatGPT. Let's just look at that. We're doing prompt engineering, and what we want to do is research something and then write something and then send it out in an email. You could type that all in one prompt, and it's a huge prompt. And what happens is, the larger prompts start to have failures and inconsistency. And so an agent allows you to take those pieces and break them into little parts and assign that to an AI that just does one thing. And this is going to be probably the way you'll see AI occur in the future. You're
Now,
going to you'll have a bunch of minions that work for you.
Now, is that agent going to be part of the open environment, or do you have to create a private environment to have your agent set up?
The agent could be in either place.
Okay.
And by the way, that's really good. If the agent was external, it keeps that away from your internal, because you just have a lang chain in between. All a lang chain is, by the way, is you're sending an AI a prompt. It's sending its response back, but it's not coming to you. It's coming to an AI which reads it. So you have one AI talking to another AI.
And then ultimately the output the originator is going to get is
the final product of the originator. There'll be a master agent that would work with the human.
Yep.
And provide an output that you desired, whether it's a PDF file, a Word doc, and maybe an email sent, whatever that was, that will occur.
What's the logic what's this? Have you looked into more on the logic side of how to create your different agents? Is there?
Yeah, that's like Crew AI and a couple of ones like that. They put the tools together to make it easy to build.
What happens if you wanted to do it yourself? What happens if you wanted to take ChatGPT-4 and you wanted to create your own set of agents?
So you could do it. It's going to end up involving lang chains, which is code that's open source. And then you're going to have to write Python code.
You are, if you're going to do this yourself.
You have to. But I want to throw something out there. Here's something a lot of people don't really pick up out there right away. And that is, when you're doing AI and you have something like ChatGPT, I'm just picking on OpenAI, and you're typing in things and getting responses, if you try to do that at a work level where you're going to have bigger jobs and people want consistency, it's going to be hard to do that from the prompt. And the funny thing is, everybody talks about the prompts, and you could do prompt engineering. To do heavy work, you're doing prompt engineering, but it needs to be directed in a Python stream. And the reason for that is a couple-fold. One, I don't know if you know this, but my buddy, he was typing away on a job we had, and ChatGPT just stopped. And he pays the $20.
Okay.
But it said, you've done too many requests.
Yeah, he hit his token limit on his $20.
Right, token limit on $20. So you need to upgrade to a higher level. Secondly, while you're sending things in, and I don't want to get too deep here, but just so you know, there's when you do work, your work needs to be consistent. There's something called fingerprint and seed, which controls that consistency. So what you really want is Groundhog Day. It's April 23rd. Let's say we get a job. We build a prompt for the job, and we're cranking away on it. In May, on May 23rd, that same prompt might be interpreted differently. You'll see it. If any of you are out there, you're doing things, if you do it every day.
Yeah, because it's a predictive tool. It's not a repetitive. You're trying to create a database system with something that wasn't created to be a database system.
Yeah, and the generative AI is learning every day. So your prompt is something different.
Yeah, it's totally different in the fact that, so a database is only as good as what you put in it, but it's static. Right. So why do we do this? What's the logic around this? So generative AI is built to create something from base ideas. Yet, and it seems like we're now trying to turn it into a database, a very huge database system.
Yes. And you know what, Dave, you bring out a really great point. So just to close out, there's something called temperature. And then I'm going to get to this database thing. There's something called temperature, which allows you, if it's 0, it's very quick and deterministic. If it's 1, it has high reasoning. And we've done some tests where we asked it some things that don't have an answer, subjective answers.
Oh, yeah, I've done that too.
Right or wrong. And we asked it, and if you set the temperature really low, it'll just pop and always do the same thing. But if you set the temperature high, where there's more reasoning, it's going to say, Well, when I think about it, maybe you should do that now, but in the long term, you shouldn't do that. So over 10 years, maybe that's not a good idea. And it would
Yeah.
consider that and change the answer. So you have to control the temperature and the tokens and the fingerprint in order to get consistent output. And you need to have Python. And back to Dave, what you were just saying, we have seen people put us into situations where we have tremendous amounts of data from maybe spreadsheets.
Yeah.
And then they get ChatGPT and we set up a job for them and they ask us to type in something like, how many serial numbers have licenses that are expired? Well, really, when you get to that, you could just go in the spreadsheet and figure that out.
It's a search function. Yeah, that's not
Yeah,
that's not what
yeah, you
generative
don't need
AI
that.
is about.
So what
It's like
we
we almost
really
don't
want
realize what generative AI is about, and they're
yeah,
trying to make it
yeah, you're
into
not taking
something.
advantage of it. Yeah, yeah.
No.
So what we want to do is take that up a layer and get with our clients and say, hey, and we did this with one client. We really said, what do you really want it to do? What would help you? And the client said, I'm going to visit a customer. So if I said my customer was Walmart, I'm going to visit Walmart tomorrow. And that's all I'm going to put on the chat line.
What
I'm
and
visiting
I'd be like,
Walmart.
what's going on in Walmart? Tell me about what are you seeing?
Yeah, I
What's
don't even need to
transpiring?
type that. If it was really right and we're acting like a human, and if I was a person working for you and Dave, you said, hey, I'm going to visit Walmart tomorrow, you don't even just finish that sentence. Oh, I'm going to go, whoa, you better watch out.
Yeah.
There's these problems there. I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you that ahead of time.
Yeah.
And you didn't even ask for it. I'm going to tell you. And, those are the types of
Well,
things
here's
we
what's
need
kidding.
to
It's
reason.
that's what generative AI was built for.
Yes.
Is that if you're not in an environment with experience, it's going to give you experience. It should give you experience. It should give
Yes.
you information that's been created based on the query.
And yes, yes. And we can do now here's the cool thing. This is what's going to become golden in the future. Let's say I show you something and I say, hey, Dave, I want you to take a look at my system that helps you sell. And you
Yep.
look at the system and I show you a demo, and then you say, George, you know what? I don't need to pay you. I have ChatGPT. I'll just go do it myself.
Yep.
What's going to happen is when you type in the same thing I typed in, it's not going to work the same.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I have rules, and those rules I'll never share. Because that's the goal. What's going to make the difference between one company and another, one consultant and another? Because everybody has ChatGPT, everybody has Gemini or whatever. Everybody has the
Yep.
same tool. We're all fighting with the same tool. How we implement the rules that allow us to ask a simple question and get a quick answer, that's the key. So I think that will definitely be something that will be the golden element of AI.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you get into that ruling. I'm just trying to, in my head, I'm just still thinking, we're trying to create a database solution and something that, it was built for more than just being housing information.
Right. We don't want it just doing a database. So by
It's
the
got to
way,
create, like you said. I mean, I need to go visit this client. Okay, I don't have anybody in the office who's experienced with this client. What can I get from it?
Right. And
So if you
the
can
other
create
piece,
agents that would be able to work together in concert to be able to answer that question, that's a powerful use case. I'm just
yes.
afraid that way we think we're putting use cases in that are stuff that you could do with algorithmic AI. And that's
Oh yeah.
I think what they're trying to do. They're trying to bypass creating the algorithmic AI, the work involved with that, and doing it off the back of somebody else. You get what
And
I'm saying?
to give you something with the agent you just named, to apply it to the example we had. So if I said I'm going to go visit someone and the tool was smart enough to know, wow, you better watch out. At the same time, the tool could know what most companies have promotions. You have a promotion. If you do this, you qualify for this.
Yep.
But what's a real pain if you have a big customer that has lots of activity, it's hard to tell if they qualify for the promotion. So now the salesperson has to go figure out the promotion rules. Perfect for AI. And now here's where the agent kicks in. If I was going to do the promotion myself, I would have to prompt in. I'd have to go get the document, or maybe I could put the document in my training data. That's too much of a pain. I'm going to create an agent whose only job is to scour my website and scour my marketing teams and look for promotions. And then I'm going to tell my agent that I work with, whenever, like every 2 days, go ask the agent that's promotion and match my database and tell me if anybody qualifies.
So
See, I don't have to
you're
do
doing
that.
it for a very specific spidering
Yes.
scenario.
Yep. So
All right.
it's all cool stuff. Definitely
No,
cool.
it's interesting. It's just trying to figure out, when I get why you want to bypass some algorithmic AI because it's difficult to set up, it's difficult to manage, and this is doing that. This is actually, you're playing in the environment maybe in a little bit of a different way, but it's what we see the environment doing for us.
Yes.
I'm still a bigger proponent in the creative aspect. And the issue now is copyright. Like, how can I create code? How can I get someone that doesn't know how to code but knows exactly what they want to do it for themselves? Because remember, most of the problems in IT happen because there's so many layers of stuff between the user and the people who are actually coding it.
Right. Oh yeah,
And that's why people love Salesforce with forced language, because it's a low code, no code situation, but it's not creating. You're just using a GUI interface that has a very deep impact on the whole Salesforce environment. You just have it's like I remember we all switched to Microsoft NT server, and everybody thought it was a joke because you didn't have to do all the typing anymore like you had to do in Linux. So I guess let's go into the copyright thing for a second, because this is, to me, looking at this more and hearing more, this is the problem with generative. You're creating something.
Yes.
And you're pulling from other sources to create.
Yes.
So what were some of your thoughts? What are some things that you've been seeing now in copyright that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'm taking a look at some of the things that are out there right now. There are evolving laws that are coming into play. Here's the challenge. And by the way, obviously, the first groups that are really chasing this are musicians and writers.
Oh yeah, and artists. Artists are really freaked out about this.
So, and I don't know what
and
all
actors, George, the whole thing with the latest contract for actors is all tied to image and likeness associated with AI generation. Yes.
Yeah. Look, I want the human to win also. I want the human to win. But here's the thing, we got to keep even on this. And I don't know. We just have to figure out how this works. So I've heard people say, they're training the systems and they're just copying all this data, and it's just popping out. Okay, yes to their training the system, but what comes out?
Copying.
It doesn't copy. It doesn't copy. So here's something I just heard. If you took an artist and they listened to the Beatles while they were growing up, and then they became a musician, with doing their songs, and they tended to have some Beatle-like rhythms and lyrics, well, it's because they like that.
Yeah.
Now, are we going to say to the fact that the artists listened to the Beatles, that they copied, because they shouldn't have listened to the Beatles to start?
That's the whole human experience. Nobody comes out magically knowing everything. You evolve based on connecting with different things in your environment. It's a great analogy. I mean, that's a great perspective on the copyright stuff that's going on.
Yeah, because so for some of you on there, and I don't know if you've looked at this, when the New York Times did this big lawsuit.
I know about the New York Times lawsuit. Yeah.
They did this big lawsuit, but the key was this. Everybody was looking to say, hey, you took a news article and if I type something in, it'll print it right out. The funny thing is it won't, because
it won't. It never will.
It learns, it applies all of its knowledge, and it regurgitates, which would be the same thing if you read the New York Times, a human being read the New York Times, and then you wrote an article about the thing you just read.
Research reports. George, what are research reports?
Yeah, it's not going to be word for word. The periods aren't going to be in
Oh.
the same place. The sentences won't be. Now, here's the catch. We all don't like that. Humans as a whole, we don't like
See,
the fact
this is where I actually like it. I get it. I get
the
the creative
machines.
aspect.
Yeah.
But it's not a human. It's just making connections with things that we can't make because we can't store that much information in our brains.
So yes, and so here's the catch. Here's maybe what'll solve all this in the end. It's hard to tell what'll ultimately happen, but here's the thing. AI trains on the data. That's how it learns all this stuff. One, you could say, I don't want my data ever to be trained on.
Yep.
That's one way to stay out of that. I don't know how easy that would be. And you could say if somebody trained on it, then they owe you something. But owe you what? That would be the hard part.
That's how you do it with Pandora. They tag different music and they charge. I mean, you could specifically create something in the digital tag that says can't be spidered, for lack of a better term, can't be trained. So like the old IP days, you can tag it. Or you can tag there that says if used, it's going to have a tracking code.
Yeah.
So I do believe you can charge a certain amount of money, much like the royalty systems are in music for this. I really do.
This is I'm going to give you possibly, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm just going to give you what's going to possibly be one of the cases that's going to be brought up a lot. OpenAI, when it did Sora, if any of you seen Sora, you should look at Sora. It's great. In the end, it was trained on YouTube. Well, that's come out.
Yep.
That's Google. YouTube is Google, and they have Gemini. YouTube's not suing so far.
Because here's the other funny thing about it.
Maybe after this podcast, they will.
Wasn't the current CEO of Microsoft trained under some of the stuff that Gates did? I mean, we train each other. So basically, go back to the same analogy. I listened to bands that sound just like the Beatles. Yep. Why aren't they being sued for copyright infringement? What is the level of, was that, go ahead?
Yeah, and the same thing you would have said if you had them in court. The way we attack the AI is we would say, you sound like the Beatles. Let me ask you, have you ever listened to a Beatle record?
Yeah.
And if they say yes, we go, okay, now you're in trouble.
Now you're in trouble. So nothing, basically everything from the beginning, who created? I mean, there's very little opportunity for somebody to create something from nothing. Einstein did it with relativity, and you get Galileo with calculus. I mean, although calculus was being used in India as well. Sorry, not calculus, whatever. Anyways, there's very few options where a human actually creates something from nothing.
Now, I will tell you the scary thing on the other side. We're kind of getting to the end here. I'll give you the scary thing. The laws right now are kind of weird around AI and the other side of the copyright, which is when it produces code, or anything, whatever it writes. What if it writes a course for you? Technically, you can't copyright something written by a machine.
That's right. Right now, that's exact nothing. That's why in the no code area, George, the big firms are not allowing any code development through the generative AI environments, because
that's scary. Yeah, because if you own a company, your intellectual property is a lot of your value,
especially on the code.
Yeah, on the code, definitely on the code. Yeah, so I don't know. This is going to be an interesting thing to look at. We'll talk about this more also moving on, but the content that you actually absorb, this training content that we're talking about, that's copyright maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, there's laws that are pushing to have you reveal how AI was trained to the buyer. It's a disclosure agreement that you have to make.
Who reads those stupid disclosures? That's the funny thing that cracks me up. How many credit card disclosures? 5 pages. The font is 0.1. I mean, nobody reads it.
Okay, if we have another minute, that's a great one, David. Okay, great one, David. Okay, I'm not going to name this product. If you come to our 30th, I'll name it.
Okay,
but right now, I'm not going to name it here. You know how all of us get on software products and we just click, 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 and then we use it. Click accept. Yeah. You don't read that whole thing that pulls down, right? Nobody reads that.
Nobody.
So I was working with a large client I work at. They were actually pushing a video creation tool that makes videos kind of like Sora, but for business. And the tool was doing a great job. I thought it was good. It had been there for a couple weeks and hundreds of employees were using it. And somebody opened the license. I don't know why, but they opened the license on the tool that everyone clicked and accepted.
Yep.
And it said, we own all of the content that this created, but that wasn't where it ended. We not only own this, we're allowed to sell this content to anyone we want. So they're basically watching people create stuff and they're going to go, I like that. I like that. I'm going to sell this.
What I would like to create is an AI agent that looks at all those terms and conditions and boils them down. Here, upload the terms and conditions and tell me the 5 things based on legal precedent that I should be concerned about.
Oh, yeah, definitely so.
That'd actually be a really interesting agent to have that can continue to grow based on. Now I can see why that would be a good agent because it grows with different precedent. It can pull that precedent out, and then you could put terms and conditions and licensing agreements into it and say, here are the things. Like right now for me, a Sal, there's like 3 or 4 things I look at. Everything else is BS.
By the way,
can they take our employees? Do they own the content we create or not? Is it mutual indemnification? There's like 3 or 4 things you look at.
There's a couple AIs that do that today. There's a couple that you can buy out there that do that. The concept of the agent, to kind of bring us back to the start, that you could say, what's the difference between that and me getting an AI that does that? The difference really is that if you had bought an AI that was a contract AI, and not off the top of my head, I can't remember, but they're out there. Okay, you're going to type your contract in there. But after you type your contract and get that done, then you still have to do whatever you do at work. That's going to be on a different AI.
Yep.
And maybe you want to take stuff off the contract or take stuff off here and put it over there. So yeah, if you want to cut and paste between AIs, that's not very scalable, and it becomes problematic if you have all these AIs open.
It's still messy.
That's the agent. Yeah, that's the concept of the agent, to have them do it all behind the scenes. Now, what you got to be worried about, that's why I said this is a future. When AI agents are in operation, there's stuff going on. As long as you're checking what's coming out at the main end, there's stuff going on in the back scene that if you were there, you probably would have caught it and stopped it.
Yes.
So that's where you're letting AIs do things. Yes, they could hallucinate. It's possible. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about that in GPTs and how to get hallucinations down next week.
All right, then we'll finish up here, 2:00 Eastern time. George, thanks for jumping on in. Sorry about the little confusion.
Sorry about the lateness.
Our fault on the confusion about is it running, is it not running? The number of live people attended too. That was great. This will also be recorded. And you see the link in there for the conference, like George was talking about, Gen AI Day, April 30th. Very, very inexpensive price to join us. I think it's $59 for the full day, plus you get the recordings. And we hope we see you there. George, thanks for your time, man.
All right, appreciate it. All right, take care. Bye-bye. Yep.